Call to order this District of Clearwater regular council meeting for Tuesday, May 12th, 2026 at 1 p.m.-ish. I would like to begin by acknowledging that we're fortunate to be gathering together on the unceded territory of the Simpcw people, who have been caretakers of this land since time immemorial. There is one late item on table. This is in relation to the fire department master plan. That will go under item 16.2 in the new business category. Can I get a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the agenda with the one late item, unless there are other late items at the table? No. So moved by Councillor Bratton, seconded by Councillor McKenzie. All those in favor, and that passes. Any known conflict of interest or pecuniary interest that anybody would like to declare? None. The TNRD director did send an email in today. So that'll be in your inbox. I have not reviewed that yet, but his comments on this meeting. Delegations. First up, we have MLA Ward Stamer. Come on down.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It's my pleasure to be here again. Had a meeting with council just a few minutes ago, going over a few things going on in their community, and I understand that there was a couple things that came through our email last week in regards to the short-term rental and business license questionnaires. I talked to the mayor this weekend, trying to give me a lay of the land of sort of what was going on, and I'd read the stuff and then the paper, and then after which, when I finished the conversation, I went online to see what the information was available. So I talked to my staff and I said, yeah, it looks like Clearwater is being proactive, knowing part of the story was, you know, back in the Kinder Morgan days, there was lots of different rentals going on. And then there now seems to be a willingness for people to go onto the registry. There's rules for them to be able to do that. And it sounds like you people have pretty much answered all the questions to that. So we only received a couple of inquiries. It wasn't a big deal. Trying to do a review back on all the stuff that's come through my office. There doesn't seem to be anything that has been any earth-shattering. I'm extremely fortunate with the staff that I have. They get on things very quickly. Everything gets filtered through me, and we get it done in a very timely fashion. I know there's one property owner up in Vavenby that's had some water issues. I know it's outside the municipal of Clearwater boundaries, but there's still some issues with water and those kinds of things. It sounded to me that there was a broken water line that was TNRD's responsibility. And it looks like right now all the water that had been coming through her property has stopped. So fingers crossed, you know, maybe they did find out where that major water was coming from. But other than that, I haven't had anything really, you know, serious to be on my radar from Clearwater and area. So I was just looking for an opportunity to come up and see what everybody's doing.
We'll get the audience to give you a few on the way out the door. We're more than happy to stir it up for you. So.
Yeah, well, thanks. Legislative-wise, in the ledge, we've only got 2 weeks left. We're off this week, which with a bunch of different meetings like we're having today. We've only got 3 days next week, and then the following 4 days. There's still Bill 9 that's going to have to be gone through. The government's pushing on the Freedom of Information changes. I do not agree with a lot of the things that they're putting into that. I think it's going to make it even harder for even municipalities or even the general public to get freedom of information. So I'm dead set against that bill, and that's apolitical. It's got nothing to do with who's in power. It's just the fact that the changes that they're putting forth I don't think are necessary. We should be open and transparent just like you folks. There shouldn't be reasons why we have to continue to hide behind the scenes. The other three main ones are the treaties, and we sort of stopped. You know, we had Comox treaty that we ended up having about a day and change on debate. We haven't even debated Kitless treaty yet, and then we've got the third treaty that we haven't even spoke to. And I just talked to my staff at the ledge, and by all indications, they're going to try to ratify the treaties in a week and a half. Yeah, so I don't know, honestly, I don't know how that's supposed to take place. I mean, Comox was 30 years in the making, and I still think that there's some structural challenges even in the treaty because they've added additional language that wasn't in the original treaties that we had 10, 15, 20 years ago. And now we've also got letters of other adjacent and overlapping boundary First Nations that don't want to proceed. So Again, I'm not too sure what the ledge is gonna do. The government may put it to the fall. I would hope that that's what they would do, because I really don't think we're gonna have enough time, even if they want us to be there till 10 o'clock at night. I don't think we're gonna be able to ask those questions. And now, other than that, we've got to be able to pass all the rest of the budget items, and we have to be able to pass the main budget by the end of this session, because it has to be done by June 30th. Otherwise, the bills don't get paid. So,
Any questions for MLA Stamer? We did get to chat him in behind. Yeah, no, just out of, procedural.
sure.
Is there ability to extend a session if you
Yes.
you run out of time?
Yeah, there
How
is,
does that
and
work?
again, I talked to Ledge before I got here, so I just wanted to hear if there was any rumors. There is an opportunity that we may go into June, and that may be those treaty specific, your worship, but I honestly think that if there's that much resistance, I would suppose that the government will probably take the summer off, be able to talk to those other First Nations in the areas, find out what those main concerns are, and then possibly bring it back at the beginning of our fall session. But the fall session, again, is at the discretion of the government. So there's no guarantee that we would even have a fall session anyways.
Wow, that would, with the amount going on, that would be surprising and unfortunate if it does not happen.
Well, it could.
Questions, thoughts? I saw Councillor Sim getting ready there.
Yeah, thanks very much. I mean, in the next presentation, we're going to be hearing from our auditor, and one of the areas that they highlight is some of the revenue decreases, which is directly correlated to grants. And, being in this particular area, it's been a bit of a drought for receipt of grants. And I'm just wondering what your take is on that, or if you can make suggestions for what the municipality could do better. Or Mayor Blackwell, you've probably got some thoughts on this as well that you want to, share. But, to continue to sort of download a number of these projects onto municipalities, keep raising the expectations, even the Fire Smart, and then to say, hey, can make all these investments, oops, but it's going to be pulled back. The yo-yo effect is really hard to follow. Mayor Blackwell?
The fire. I had a discussion at Silga with one of the MLAs, actually one of yours as well, from the Conservative Party. The tall guy with the three-piece suits. I want to say
You're talking about our Indigenous critic, Scott McGuinness,
Scott McInnes. I was going to say McInnes and
Columbia Revelstoke.
Yeah, and along the lines of the Fire Smart grant pullback, which is absolutely devastating for communities like ours at such high risk, and we're already essentially living in the download by creating our own initial attack crew and sort of an expanded Fire Smart, which after this year we're going to basically, if the grants money there is not restored, we're going to be funding more so ourselves. So that one's pretty critical on ours. The other ones are simple things like the emergency helipad at the hospital. That grant at this point does not seem to be going forward, so we'll have to reapply for next year if that's one avenue we want to do, or we find another option. But also the small stuff right now. It seems federally, I was talking to somebody that lives between Blind Bay, Clearwater, and Nunavut today. At the dump, because that's where you meet everybody doing your recycling. And Nunavut has a hell of a lot of federal dollars going into it because the federal government's priorities seems to shift to spending on military defense and border protection away from some municipal funding. And it seems like a lot of that municipal funding is going to the large centers where the most quote unquote bang for the buck will go as far as votes and results. So rural is really suffering on the grant front as well, and any assistance that you can give on us on that would be wonderful. But we've also already had MP Caputo was here, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, Shelley, 3 weeks ago. Yeah, and we had that conversation with him about, especially about federal grant funding, because he wanted to come in and ask us, what's our one big ask? He also talked about things like natural gas pipelines and things like that as well, and internet and cell phone coverage. So you want to continue, because I've completely exhausted my train of thought.
I think that's fine. And I think, again, what Mayor Blackwell and we explained to the MP and also to you is when you invest by way of grants into rural BC, sometimes it feels quite lonely when you're not included in it, because the small dollar amount, like that 1.2 million for that CHIP grant, could have had an impact of up to 400 homes in Clearwater. That 1.2, if you put it into the Lower Mainland, it would just be washed away. So there is room to have a larger return on investment, and just to elevate that we can actually help achieve the government's objectives, and we can probably do so with greater success, given the fact that that investment will go further here.
Yeah, and
Well,
we'll
thanks very much with that. A couple of things, you know, when I was doing my estimates on the Ministry of Forests this spring, we talked at length about the Fire Smart program, knowing full well that the 25 million was already allocated, an extra 15 million top up to kind of smooth it over a little bit. But the reality is now we've got the Fire Smarting program that involves municipalities. We've got FESBC. We got BC Wildfire Service. Now we have BC Timber Sales involved as well. And when I was having Bill 14 debate, I was asking the same question. Ultimately, what are we actually going to be doing in the interface with this? When you've got communities like Clearwater that have built up capacity, but at $100,000 a year, it can't be self-sustaining from this tax base. And I asked the minister straight out, are we looking at just the ability to pay? Is that how that funding is going to continue? You know, does West Kelowna have a better opportunity to keep maintaining their capacity with their tax base? And then you folks are going to be in a challenge. The other part of it is, and they alluded to it, is there's communities throughout BC that do not have the capacity. And particularly on Vancouver Island, they've been dragging their feet because they didn't feel that there was a need. And after what happened last summer and what's happening today, they are extremely worried for their communities. When you look at the fuel load on some of those communities on Vancouver Island, they've done no wildfire and fuel reduction at all. And they've always thought that, well, we're going to have high enough humidity and lower temperatures that we're not going to have wholesale fires. Well, if it stays like this for any length of time, we're going to have a serious situation on Vancouver Island this year. So again, how do we move forward with this? And I know the minister's talked about, Mr. Forrest has talked about a review. Well, how does that work? How are we going to be able to identify where the capacity levels are? What is an annual funding model look like? Is it going to be a share? Is it going to be 70-30, or what's that going to be? Because that ultimately talks about grants as a whole. When you were looking at, you know, infrastructure grants with a 30-30-30, whether it's 30% municipal, 30% provincial, and 30% federal, well, it seems like there's still a fair amount of federal dollars kind of floating around. But if you don't have the provincial component, there's no way that you folks can fund any of it at all. And there's no shortcuts. It's not like you can do part of it this year and part of it next year. You are really left holding the bag, so to speak. So yes, I can certainly, you know, bring those concerns forward. I know that MLA Millibar is going to be doing his estimates in Minister of Finance here in the next week. So maybe, you know, he can, you know, spend some time advocating not only on behalf of the communities here, but communities throughout BC. When you've got a deficit of approximately, I think, $25 billion that I understand province-wide, what is the government going to be doing proactively in the next 3 to 5 years to try to do something about that?
And I think it's critical on this one, but, you know, two things. One, the ability for, say, Kelowna or West Kelowna to come up with several $100,000 for a Fire Smart program is basically reducing their small expenses in office, whereas us, that's, you know, 3%, 4% of taxation,
100%.
which is a big deal. The second thing is, you know, it is the whole you have to pay to play thing here that we're getting into the situation. There's going to be way more bang for the buck in areas like us, and you know what you're talking about on especially northern Vancouver Island, where that fuel load is in there and full drought is in effect. You know, fixing it after the fact, as we have personally witnessed up close with Lytton, is an incredibly expensive process. I'm going to say, you know, 5-10 cents on the dollar preventative through Fire Smart is going to make all the difference in the world versus fixing it after the fact, and that goes for Fire Smart, atmospheric rivers, and everything else. You did mention to me on your phone call that, and I don't want to go too long, but that you had visited Kamloops Fire Center and done a tour last Friday, yeah. So what's your read on the situation there for this summer?
Honestly, I think we're in really good shape. I think we've gone a long way since 2023. When I had the opportunity to be able to, it was a perfect day because there wasn't a whole lot going on. They were reacting to those lightning strikes that had happened in the previous 24, 48 hours. And just the level of integration with our local fire departments, and you can speak to that as well. The FNESS people in the First Nation side of things. I toured the fire hall in Chase on Saturday, looking at what they've been able to accomplish in their capacity on being able to react. I still have some questions in regards to being paid. I think there's easier ways or better ways than what we were doing 2 years ago, but I still think that if Municipal Fire Department in Clearwater or Blackpool or anybody else wants to be actioning these fires, they shouldn't be asking for permission. They should be able to get there, do their thing, and then if there has to be, boots on the ground from the BC Wildfire Service, or if they want to bring in additional resources, there should be not a question on how we get paid for this stuff. The other one that's important too is that we've been talking to the insurance brokers and trying to stretch out some of these requirements when it comes to getting new equipment. Because you and I both know a lot of times it's all determined on how much your tax base is versus whether that piece of equipment can last another 5 or 7 years. So I think we really have to have that conversation as well, because I know Chase needs a new fire truck, and we're talking probably about $700,000 to $800,000, and they have about $50,000 in the kitty. So we've got to be able to stretch this stuff out. We still need to be able to have those, twice a year inspections and all that kind of stuff. But even in our larger municipal cities, having our fire trucks go to all these first responder type calls is way, way, way too expensive.
Yeah.
And there's many of us that agree that there's got to be a change, even with the BC Ambulance Service, on how we are spending our dollars wisely and not having $1 million truck going to a scene of an accident, does not have electric vehicle, does not have to have, fire or foam, water or foam to be able to put that fire out, or the capacity of that. Why are we running the wheels off this stuff?
Yeah.
So I'm not the only one that's brought that up. I mean, Calps is in our riding, and their costs are going right through the roof on replacing this stuff, and they've never had to in the past.
Yeah, and you throw on top of that, which we're finding out is because of the basically the monopoly created in the United States on the building of fire trucks, that these are now 2-3 year, 18 months out, 2 years out.
That's right.
From ordering time, and if you lose one in an accident, you're still in that same boat where you don't get a replacement. You don't go to the front of the line. So yeah, we could talk about that for a long time, and I see Chief Smith in the back corner there. That's one of his favorite little topics and behind the scenes. So
well, let's have a conversation soon about this, because
yeah.
I think it's a greater issue, because I mean, you folks are just finalizing your budget. You've got a 5-year plan that, every year you're renewing your 5-year plan, just like when I did it in Barrier. And I mean, the other thing is that you have to balance your budget. Yeah. And I would say that, provincially and federally, we should be doing a lot better job of doing that as well. That's why you folks are in so much pressure, because you can't just all of a sudden decide, well, I'm just going to go start printing some money, because it doesn't work that way.
No, we have to balance our budget, and every time we did budget, especially this year, the last couple of years, the not the reliance so much, but sort of seeing the patterns of provincial and federal grants and dollars that come in to assist on things, we can't count on those anymore. So we're budgeting like they're not coming in most cases, and that's something that is new. I mean, both you and I have been in this at these desks for over 10-12 years now, and we've seen sort of the progression of that from things that you could 80% be certain, 60% certain that you're going to get to 20% or 0% certain that is going to come your way. Mm-hmm. And that's the world we're living in right now, both federally and provincially with funding. So
yeah, tough.
Yeah. Any further? Go ahead, Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Stamer, for coming up and speaking today. This is in your wheelhouse, but decline in forestry. Mm-hmm. That is a drum we need to keep on beating, and we also need to realize that there are forests beyond hope. I know you've been talking about this for a while, and it's been a conversation steady. We spoke at Kofi there. We see what goes on. We really need to keep pounding on that drum, I think, to make changes. Just as well as I do, but you're on that next level. you know.
Yep.
That's one thing, if you can take that back too and speak to the ministers about that. I mean, it's easy to come out gunning with the fresh position and say all these things that sound great to the public, but we know the reality of it all. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate
if
that.
that can go back to Minister Parmart as well, on your list of things to do.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I mean, I heard a statement the other day that wouldn't that be wonderful if we were selling more of our products to the Asian Pacific? And I was thinking, yeah, that's probably why we should still have offices in the Asian Pacific, but we don't. But you're right, and it can be really frustrating. I found out today that the drive to 45 or the path to 45 is no longer being used by the Ministry of Forest. Because obviously they haven't been able to move the needle at all. If anything, the needle's actually going in the wrong direction. So now there's a refocus in trying to do more with less, if I
Yeah.
can say that. But no, I appreciate that very much, and I think that, you know, we'll get through this process, but part of that has to do with the Americans and their housing starts and Mr. Trump's tariffs. And so once that changes, that will help us a lot. But in the meantime, I think we're going to be in a real tough spot, particularly in the next 6 months.
For sure.
And a lot of that also comes back to fire, is that when you've got people out in the bush with capacity, if there's a fire, then all of a sudden you've got more equipment available for that fire. If those folks aren't working here or they're not working at all, we won't have those boots on the ground. I'm really concerned about that.
Well, you need the guys that know the land too, not just books
Well, we
and
still
maps.
need, we still need equipment. We still need dozers. We still need bunchers, and we still need excavators. We still need to be able to build fire guards. And if that equipment isn't available, we're not going to get that work done.
No, absolutely.
So I hear you loud and clear. So I'm pushing as hard as I can.
Okay, I know that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to sort of round things out, and just noting about some of those infrastructure grants, this infrastructure grant ties into water, ties into our ability to protect our core infrastructure,
That's right.
right? So it's not just about new homes, it's even about protecting what we have. So there's a full story that can often be told in a different way in small towns, which you know, thankfully.
Oh, I do, and thanks very much. But everyone knows we have a major water break in Counts today, and everything east of Rose Hill, there's no water supply. So imagine if there's a fire right now. What are we actually supposed to do? And you guys know as well as I do, if there's no water over a period of time, you have to leave. So it's important. You know, water is for fire protection first, then it's for domestic use second. That's how it works. So I hear you loud and clear. So we'll keep pushing as hard as we can. You're welcome.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And,
Very welcome.
I'm quite sure when you drift out of the lobby, one or two people might, ask you a question. I won't call it ambush, but they might ask you a question.
I will be back on the weekend for your
Parade.
Day parade, so I'm
Yes.
looking forward to that very
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Trying to get.
Very much.
Okay, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thanks. Up next is Taseko Yellowhead. Taseko, come on down, Cora, and yes. We're gonna do this in tandem. I take it. So thank you. Whenever you're ready, go ahead. Do we have a slideshow accompanying this? I think
Yeah,
we do.
we have a presentation.
It's Elson's getting Mr. Prime's getting that functional here. So
Thanks for having us this afternoon, Your Worship, councillors, staff, and the public. We want to make good on our promise to keep everybody appraised about the progress of the Yellowhead project. And today we are going to talk where we're at, and what we are going to do this summer. There it is. Okay, first slide. That's a disclaimer. You have to read it word by word. Thank you. Awesome. The red button?
The left, right.
The left, right? Okay. Okay, perfect. So, quick overview. We are going to talk about the Yellowhead project, quick update about our 2026 site investigation program up on the mountain, and our next steps. Our little team here. Some of you might know Finn. He's is our manager of field programs, and many of the people that are out there in the bush have met him before. He's a great communicator and really approachable. And then the rest of our team there that we are residing in Barrie all the time. We get a lot of questions about the BC environmental assessment process that we are going through at this point. And that's why we thought we're gonna do a quick explanation of this and where we're at. So currently we're in the early engagement phase still. The initial project description was submitted last year in the summer, the IPD we call it, and we've reported about that in the past year. And now we are working towards the detailed project description, which is the next step. And this is going to be published mid-year. So we're working hard at getting that out with the information that is added to the IPD. If you look at the, this little graphic here is from the BC Environmental Assessment Office. And we've put our little blue star there. That's where we are at. The next steps after the detailed project description is submitted, again, mid-year 2026, the DPD will be used or will be informing the readiness decision. And the readiness decision is the decision that the Environmental Assessment Office makes. And then hopefully we can actually enter into the environmental assessment process. Are there any questions to that?
Questions? I'm not saying any, keep going.
And then, of course, we always have to reiterate, we are working also through the SIMP assessment process, and we are in step 3 right now. So we've went through the first 2 steps and working closely together with SIMP and working through their process as well. And now I'm going to hand it over to Cora, and she's going to talk about what is going to happen this year up on the mountain.
Thank you, everyone. Okay. So every year we've been doing a site investigation program. So the purpose of the program is to collect data to support the design and permitting of the project itself. So in 2024 and 2025, we focused on geotechnical site characterization. So that was where the proposed tailings facility is proposed. Then this year, our program is expanding to study area to include the open pit, the tailings storage facility again, plant site, waste rock, overburden storage areas, and the primary access route. Through that, so we're looking to start, this is probably more looking like mid-June. The program is expected to run 60 to 90 days and would include geotechnical, which is the characterization of the foundations for the project, for the infrastructure. Then we're going to look at geomechanical, so that's helping to inform the pit slopes. Then we have hydrogeological, that's helping to inform future water modeling, and then metallurgical, and that is for the open pit. Included in this program would be installation of groundwater monitoring wells, test pitting, including soil sampling, trail building to access site, seismic refraction surveys, installation of a new weather station, tree clearing, and then continued reclamation of the historic exploration camp, which I have on the next slide. So in 2025, the previous proponent had a exploration camp. And so last year we started reclaiming that area. So we removed and disposed of the above ground structures. So that included 7 ATCO trailers, 2 highboy reefer trailers, and steel culverts. And then for this year, we're looking to remove and dispose of the underground infrastructure. So the electrical, water, and waste piping, underground water tank, and then recontouring the site and removal of access roads from Jones Creek Forest Service Road. Looking at next steps, again, so the program is looking to start mid-June. As Ursula mentioned, we're looking to submit our detailed project description. So that'll be a public document that is uploaded to the EPIC website. And really that document, if you remember, we hosted those open houses, EAO hosted open houses. They allowed the public to provide comment and feedback. And really what that does is it takes that information and we do an updated, I like to call it an updated draft of a project. And why I call it an updated draft is because we haven't gone through the assessment yet. We haven't gathered all the data. We haven't done all the baseline studies that'll help to inform your final application. So your final application as part of the process, that's where you'll see a lot of the information around, okay, what does the water modeling look like? And what are your results for this? And what are your mitigations? What are you gonna do about X, Y, or Z? And so it's your beginning draft before you've done a lot of that work. We're lucky that has prior baseline studies with Harper Creek, so we do have a lot of historic information that we can use, but we still have to fill some of those gaps that have happened since within the regulatory process, as well as any information that SIMP would like as well. So yes, once we've submitted the DPD, we will request to come back. We'll present what's different in the DPD. So what's changed, what feedback did we take, and what changed since the last initial project description, and we'll highlight those changes for you come mid-year. So that's the end of the presentation. It was just kind of to give you an update, to let you know that we're not hiding in a corner, but that we're continuing. There's been a lot of work that's happened, and that you may see, Finn around this summer as well. So, but we're welcome to have any questions.
Thanks. I'll start off, and I'm sure council has a couple, but I've already sort of asked you this through channels, but I'd like to have it on the record here. The province has put this project, your project, not us, on the priority list. What does this actually mean? Because the only interpretation I can get out of it is that the file will be looked at instead of being put in the box on the desk. But other than that, it doesn't seem to speed anything up.
So yes, in November 2025, there was a report published, I believe it's called Looking West, and our project was listed as one of those projects. When they released the priority project list, it was just highlighting that report. So nothing has changed in terms of process or timelines for the Yellowhead project. We're happy to know that the government sees us as an important project, but at this time it doesn't materially change anything for us.
Further questions for?
Yeah,
Cora?
thank you for coming
go
up
ahead.
and speaking today. Reading your Copper Wire newsletter, has there been any consideration on doing evening coffee and conversations or anything, like 10:30 to noon or 10:30, 12:30, I think they were for Vavenby and Clearwater, or Vavenby and Barrier. I might have read that wrong, but anyway, more out of regular working hours.
So we tend to do like our information sessions and open houses in the evening. So when we have bigger information to present to community, our local team, there's only 3 of us. So we have found such great participation in doing evening events that we have close to, in Clearwater, the one time it was over 250 people came out. In Vavenby, there was over 180 people who came out. So just on a resourcing perspective, we will do evening events in the future. Even with the public comment periods within the environmental assessment, we'll look at evening events there as well. So the more informal sessions during the day are allowing for just small one-on-one conversations with people, and just due to staffing as well. So, but yes, in the future there'll be evening ones, but not our coffee and conversations.
Perfect.
Also, winter's not always the best time to have to travel for back and forth for, yes.
Yeah, our next coffee and conversation will be hosted in Clearwater. We try to do them on a quarterly basis between Vavenby and Clearwater.
Yep.
The next one will be in Clearwater.
Yeah, perfect.
Any further questions? Council Frizzle.
Just a simple one, the time frame. It fluctuates all the time. Where are we at right now? What do you think with the assessment?
So we have to get through process planning to understand what studies are going to be required and get that. So it's called, as part of the process, there's an application information requirements. So the timeline is still, at this point, a multi-year process. And until we get further in, we won't have those definitive, probably what you're looking for in terms of timeline.
Do you have a sense where you'll know where you're at there? Like when you're going to get, what did you call it?
So we have to get further in the process. So right now we're in the early engagement
Yeah, so-
phase. And so as we get closer, and sorry, I'm just going to refer to the diagram. You go through process planning to understand what you have to, so your application information requirements. Once we get into application development, it's further on in the process that you have a better idea on timeline. So at this point, it's still multiple years out.
It fluctuates. Fair.
Anything further? Go ahead, Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, it's interesting to see your diagrams here because where your star is for, say, page 6, right at the beginning. But if you kind of get the pulse of people in the valley, they would say you're at about step 5.9, ready for, opening day. So to see you guys put it into perspective where you actually are for this early engagement, kind of really is an eye opener for everyone that continues to ask, thinking I have the intel as to where they could send resumes to.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we've
knowing
seen
this
that.
is years out.
Sorry. Because we tend to get a lot of questions about that in terms of where are you at in process, and people, I didn't know about the environmental assessment process before, right? And so that's why we put it in this slideshow, we put it in our recent newsletter as well. We're trying to develop content on this as much as BCAO owns this process, and it's not ours to own, it's theirs. We do find it's one of the #1 questions from the local communities, and so trying to build reassurance that there's still a long way to go. There's a lot of information we need to determine still, and there's lots of opportunity for feedback. So there's that one end, but there's also there's not a lot of jobs right now. And when there is, we will put that information out into local communities for recruitment.
And then maybe also something to consider, they're not all the same length, those partitions that there are. So, and some of them, we don't know how long they are because it depends on what's comes up, right? And what processes are being required. So it's really hard to say right now how long it will take. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and obviously it's great to have you present at these meetings because it gets out there in the public, and I'm sure the newspaper and others will pick this up, and people on Facebook as well, because that's where a lot of the conversation happens. Thank you for your presentations. I'm not seeing any more questions here, and yeah, thank you for coming on up.
Thank
Good
you,
stuff,
everyone. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7.3. 2025 added financial statements presentation. We have Mario Perotti online from BDO who will run this through for us, noting to the gallery that council has already seen a preliminary version of this, so we'll ask some of the same questions again to highlight things, but you're wondering why we're not asking so many questions because we've already seen this once. Whenever you're ready, Mario, fire away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate you having me back here. And it was a little hard not speaking up during for some questions during our MLA's presentation. I definitely have some thoughts on what was being discussed too. So regardless, we're here to present the 2025 audited financial statements. As we've done in prior years, I will present the statements on behalf of management. You have in your agenda package the full set of financial statements. And so even though I've prepared a PowerPoint to walk you through it, happy if there's any questions or anything, items that you want highlighted for the public in the public meeting, happy to speak to that as well. But as of today, our audit is substantially complete, and I'm happy to report that we will be issuing a clean audit opinion again this year. So these statements do present fairly the results for the District of Clearwater for the year ended December 31st, 2025. And so when we look at the results, it's an interesting year, and we're seeing this trend across the province where we're seeing that increased cost of capital projects and what that's doing to your financial position and some timing items. You'll note that when we're looking at your financial position, that your financial assets increased from 18.6 million up to 20.6 million, and predominantly that is all in cash. And so your cash position increased, but we see that your liabilities, when we exclude your long-term debt with MFA, went up by just over $2 million. And the drive between both those numbers comes down to the grant that you received for the water metering. There's $2 million in deferred revenue of grant funding received, but as that project is ongoing and didn't conclude in 2025, that money was yet to be spent. So we see that increase in your financial assets, but also in your liability. And that's why when we come down to your net financial assets, which is that measure of how much you would have left if you settled all of your obligations tomorrow, that went down by $300,000 from 14.6 million to 14.3 million. And so again, it's understanding some of the subtleties of the timing differences we're seeing, and there'll be a couple of other items that we'll speak to on that as I move through the slides. So on the next slide, we're looking at your revenues with a comparison of budgets to actual. And your total revenues were 7.99 million this year, short of your budget of 9.2 million, and just under from where you were last year at 8.5 million. And you can see that the government grants and transfers is really where your big swing is, where you were $1.6 million under what was budgeted. And that's all related to the capital funding, in particular, like we spoke about the water meters project as well. And we'll see how that comes together at the end. The other item, though, that I wanted to highlight, because we're talking about the fact that there is that increased cash position. And if we look at your investment income this year, it dropped from $835,000 to $538,000 this year, up from budget, though, of $293,000. And there was an expected decrease in your investment income that was coming this year because of, capital projects happening, and also decrease in investment return rates, in the local government environment in terms of what you're allowed to invest in. So the rates of return are going down, you had less money, makes sense that it would drop from last year. But you ended up $300,000 over budget. And that's because management was proactive when we're seeing that capital projects aren't moving forward, not just letting that money sit idle, that money's being put to work. And really, that's been something that I've been highlighting for all of the communities that I work with, is that analysis and making sure that as money is sitting, moving into investments, so you're getting a return on that money, and also thinking about as capital budgets are being proposed and capital projects are going to move forward, the timing of when do we borrow if we need to borrow versus when do we draw down on our investments, because depending on where rates are, it might be cheaper to borrow if you're getting a better rate of return on investments, or if you're at the time that you need to borrow, rates are higher, maybe you drain some of your investments so that you're saving some of that interest later and replenish it when rates come down a bit. So all that volatility in the market combined with increased costs to capital projects, something to really keep an eye on. But I'm very happy to say that management has been doing that from what we've seen this year. When we talk about $8 million, this slide just shows here's how it breaks down between the various categories. We can see taxation makes up nearly half of that. Now, when we come and look forward at expenses, total expenditures this year came in at 8.4 million, up from 7.7 last year, but short of budget of 9.4. And as you can see, there isn't really a lot of volatility that we're seeing in the expenses in terms of being overspent. North Tops Sportsplex was overspent, but we saw increased usage, and that translated on the revenue side as well. So there wasn't really an issue there to report. So overall, we can see that, management has done a good job of setting a budget that's realistic and executing on that budget financially. Now, when we bring this all together, I've pulled this slide in, and although all of these numbers do come from the financial statements, you aren't going to see this table in the financial statements. And that's because when you prepare your budget as required by the community charter, it doesn't align with how these statements need to be presented in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. So this slide brings it together so that, Mayor and Council, you can have an apples to apples comparison of how you did this year. So the plan was that you would have an annual deficit of $210,000 this year. And from that deficit, you would also have spent nearly 3.1 million on capital projects. We add back your amortization, which is not a funded expense and it's not a cash outlay. And we come to a deficit before transfers of 1.5 million, which means that you were going to fund 1.5 million in capital projects out of your reserves. Now, what actually happened is that we ended up in a deficit of $475,000, primarily because of that shortfall in your grant revenue. But we can see that when I talked about that difference between what your grant revenue actual was versus the budget, a similar difference is there between what happened in your capital assets. You had 1.6 million in capital spending versus the $3.1 million budget. So it goes back to that timing where you received the grant, but we couldn't recognize the revenue for the water meters as the example because the project didn't move forward, but that will happen in 2026. Moving down, we ended up in a deficit before transfers of $382,000. We repaid our debt to the tune of $42,000, and then we only pulled $244,000 out of your reserves as opposed to the 1.5 that was planned. And again, that's all because of where you landed with your capital projects. We ended up in a deficit for the year of $180,000 versus the balanced budget. And really what that means is that, you know, you ended up subsidizing some of the capital spend from your unrestricted funds instead of reserves. So you can see that overall, very tight to budget, and the one big story in terms of why the numbers varied on the revenue side and the expense side correlates, being your capital projects. Now, when we bring it all together, you know, I started by saying that you had, you know, $14 million as your net financial position, but we can see that your accumulated surplus is $44 million, excluding your reserve funds. If we take out what's called invested intangible capital assets, which represents what you've historically spent on all your capital infrastructure, less the debt that you owe on it, we're left with a cash unrestricted surplus of just under $5 million between general, water, and sewer. And that's money that management has to execute on the budget that you've approved. We then add that $5 million to just under $5 million to the $10.6 million that you have in reserve funds. And that ties back to what your financial position is. And on this slide, the column on the left is your 2025, 2024 is on the right. This shows that $10.6 million in cash that you have in your reserve funds, how it's been allocated. And as a reminder, management can't access this funds or these funds without having council's approval. So I will quickly pause there and ask if there's any questions or comments that council would like before we quickly touch on the audit results.
Any questions or comments from council on this? And noting that we already got to look at this in the earlier meeting. I'm not seeing any at this point. Councillor Sim will ask one just so that we have a question.
Exactly. Let me do my part. We did appreciate having the opportunity to have a review of this earlier. And there was two things that I found particularly interesting. One is your thoughts around the debt management and how the fluctuation of interest rates and when to kind of hold steady. I think the example that we brought up is, you know, when do you use your own money to pay for your students' education, or when do you suggest that they go and apply for a student loan? And from what I understand, you felt that we were in a good position. In fact, if I read this correctly, we have less debt as a district than most households have. Like maybe a new Ford pickup truck is what we've got for debt. So just if you wanted to just to clarify where we're going on that debt and how that has shown up in some of these statements.
Okay, thank you. Through the mayor to Councillor Sim. You know, when we look at your debt position, you're sitting at $107,000 in there. If you look at that on a per capita basis, that is not very much at all, you know, on the average household that you have there. And so you're in a fortunate position that as these costs of infrastructure start to grow and you need to start dealing with some of these replacements, that you're able to go and decide, okay, when do I need to borrow? And if I need to borrow, I'm going to be within my borrowing limits because I don't have any debt, realistically. And so then it becomes, what's the timing? Do I borrow right away at the start of the project? Or do I use our own funds that are in investments in there to front this and then replenish it at the end and take out the debt at that point? And it's really important, and we can see that in the fact that your interest income came in over budget this year. And it's important for management to keep doing what they're doing, where they're looking at the cash flows and going, let's make sure that we're maximizing what return we can have on our cash, and then couple that with what is the best time to borrow. Because if we look at the spring lending rates from MFA, and they're higher than what you have in terms of what you're earning on your investments, well, maybe we should use our investments to front the capital projects. And if it looks like interest rates are going to drop, borrow later. Because the difference between your borrowing expense and your investment income revenue is going to be critical going forward. And we can see that you had a $300,000 favorable lift on your budget this year by managing your investments.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, I'm going to use, a little personal example here. When I had my money in 5% interest rates or 4.6 through GICs, that was a great time to keep that money in there because it was earning money. But now that it's sucking wind down at 1 point whatever or 2 point whatever, now would be a good time to, self-finance any debt that I would want to go through with sort of my household projects and things like that. Is that essentially what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? If not, continue. Thank you, Mr. Perotti.
Okay. So, we don't want to just talk on the financial statements because we did complete an audit. And I wanted to give a summary, and again, acknowledging that we went through the full detailed report earlier today, but, I did want to highlight a few items that we have here. And the first, a big thank you to management, for making sure that we were able to complete the audit on time. I know that, with some of the staffing that there was more pressure on the team that was here, but they did a great job in making sure that we were able to still be here and that we weren't rushing last minute to get things out. Everything went in the agenda package as scheduled. So a big thank you to your finance team there. The next bullet point talks about no deviations from our planned audit approach. And what that point highlights is the fact that in the fall and winter, we come in and we look at what's changed within the District of Clearwater. And based on what's changed, we look at how do we need to change our audit approach so that I can issue that clean opinion that we're looking at today. And as a part of that, we look at, okay, we're going to change our testing to be this. And based on that, we expect that the results of the testing to be this as well. If our testing results when we come in and do the audit in the spring aligns with what we planned, everything's good, we don't need to deviate. When we start to have to deviate because the testing results aren't what we expected, that can be a sign of things might not be operating the way we need. And so happy to say that we didn't have to deviate this year. We completed our testing in the specific in the areas of more significant risk. And I just want to highlight, in particular, the capital projects. There were, some capital projects that moved forward this year. The land acquisition had some items in terms of the diligence on the land that we looked at in advance. Management was really proactive looking at that with us, even outside of the audit period, to make sure that we were all there. So we had no concerns over the testing. And then also for transparency, senior leadership in any organization has an ability to circumvent the control environment. And so we're required as your auditor to go and do testing of transactions with management. And I'll add counsel to that mix as well, because you can influence management as well. And we did all of that testing and we had no concerns to report. So overall, quite pleased with how the audit went this year and very happy to propose and stand behind the clean audit opinion that we're putting forward for you today.
Thank you for that. Anything further from our end? Not seeing any. So where do we go from here, Mr. CAO or Mr. Perotti? We just go with the recommendation is what comes up next. Okay. So there is a recommendation that council accepts the 2025 audited financial statements as presented by Mario Perotti, manager of BDO Canada LLP, as of at the May 12th, 2026 regular council meeting. Somebody wish to move and second this? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Bratton. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor? And that passes. And thank you for your time on this and your crew's time on this, Mario. And thank you especially to our staff, management in-house. This is always a very important, detailed process. I see a lot of paperwork coming across my desk on a weekly and every 2-week basis with a lot of the facts and figures that go into building this. And it's an impressive amount of work that gets done. So thank you for your time and have a good day. See you next time, Mario. Bye-bye.
Yeah, take care.
Okay, moving on to item 8.1, minutes of special council meeting held April 7th. recommendation that they be adopted as presented. Mover and a seconder, if you desire, council.
Just a note on that, I think it was just about the motion about the food truck that I think we're all excited about, and whether it's important or not, but the motion was actually specific to say only 37 East. That's last week, right?
Yeah. That was a special.
Yep,
That was a regular or not special?
regular.
64.
Well, yeah, we're still on the special from the.
Oh, good, okay, I'm ahead of my
Got a
time.
seconder on the special.
Sorry, I'll second it.
Councilor Batten seconds that. All those in favor? That passes. Now we move on to that one and discussion on that. Councilor Sim.
Yeah, just that the motion, and this is on page 64, the agenda 16.4, and that council allow the mobile food vendor Susan Ward to only locate on district property at the 37 East lot. The word only is missing.
I don't dispute that. Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Johnson? Is that your understanding?
Well, I think the minutes reflect that correctly, where it said council to allow the mobile food vendor to locate on district property at the 37 East lot, subject to Interior Health and the district to Clearwater Fire Inspection and Business Licensing. So I think it's reflected there.
And that's fair. I just know that I was specific in it, so, but I read it and I thought, I mean, it's most important that there's a space for this opportunity.
Yes, and just so you understand the process, they could only relocate on an area of municipal land what has been approved by council. So by approving one spot, that's the only location that would be allowed.
Yeah, there had been a lot of sort of other and what if, and I know we've got some operational things with sand piles and that, so just watching out, because it's a new endeavor for the district with not a lot of guidelines as of yet. So it's a really exciting pilot, and just making sure that we follow it in case other businesses are looking for that same opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. So do I have a mover and a seconder on that one? Thank you, Councilor Bratton, and seconded by Councilor Matheson. All those in favor, and that passes. Thank you. Yeah, and noting that if they so desire not to use our pilot project opportunity, they always have the ability to make an agreement with any other landowner that's willing, as long as it fits zoning. So that's good. Mayor's report. We're moving on to that now. I'm just going to defer until next council meeting on that. Councilor Bratton, do you have anything to report at this meeting?
Just a little bit. I would like to commend the contractor on the fields down at the ballpark. They're looking fantastic. And one of the contractor's workers was showing me what exactly they had done on Diamond 2 so far. I think this week is Diamond 1. And yeah, just all around great work, looking really good. And I had a question on when flushing hydrants is completed, just for giggles.
Councilor Broughton through the mayor. Yeah, so right now we had slowed down due to the temperatures and the water issues we're having. So we'll continue to flush as it cools off, but it could go another month or so.
Okay, good to know. Just if people are seeing the fluctuations, then know something to attribute it to.
Right, and I'll try and keep up on that Facebook post, let people know what's going on.
And on that note, I would just like to commend staff, the communication that has gotten really good on the Facebook page with the what's up and coming and whatnot. Love it. Good job. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilor Frizzle, you've had a busy day so far.
I have. And I just came back from the seniors lunch, and I'd like to thank Councillor Matheson, who came to talk to the seniors about his 3-week trip to Haida Gwaii. It was very interesting and very scary, I have to admit. I think everybody was sort of feeling a little worried for you, even though you're safe back here. So that was fun. But what I would want to just focus on is that next month on June 16th, we're having a seniors forum. And we're going to be having people from the BC Communities Responses Network, the Interior Healthy Community Development, and the Seniors Advocate of BC coming to speak to the seniors about seniors issues and answering questions that seniors and others have. And there will also be people with table displays of different things they do. That'll be the Clearwater Fire Department, the United Way, RCMP, Victim Services, Yellowhead Community Services, and more. I think it's going to be really a fun day. The mayor's going to make some opening speeches. We're going to have some daycare singers and yoga exercises. So yeah, you need to fill that out. And so it's going to be a great day, and I really hope that a lot of people come out. I would really like to see seniors that don't normally participate in the Wells Grey Country Senior Society events that we have. We'd like to get more seniors out to see what's out there and see the supports that are out there for them. That's what this is all about. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a really good day, lots of fun, and there'll be door prizes, and it's just going to be a fun day.
Yeah, June 16. And to note on that, the Seniors Advocate of BC, Dan Levitt, we met him at UBCM. If you follow him in the news, he challenges the system and the local government quite a lot on things, advocates very strongly for seniors. He's probably one of the most high-profile seniors advocates I think I've ever seen. And just coming to listen to him or meet him, I think is well worth everybody's time to come out.
I'd like to say one more thing on that. When I did speak to him, he did stress very clearly that he wants to talk to as many people as he can in the community and answer as many questions as he can and take questions back if he can't answer them. So I think it could be a great opportunity for the community.
Yeah. He's a pretty busy guy. Councillor Herring is away today. Councillor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Not much to report. Just want to remind everyone, Moose Eye campaign, May 14th, Elks Hall, 3 to 7 p.m. So that is coming up here this week. And want to acknowledge the RCE coordinator, just for all the great programs coming out. The revival of ball hockey at the rink has got my childhood blood pumping. So nice to see that coming back. Lots of great programs going on out there. And then, I took part in an online survey with UBC Okanagan, and it was a regional director that got in the same year we did in 2018, and we've kept contact over the years, and just did an online survey about creativity in politics. It was just kind of a neat little thing. We had an hour conversation about that and whatnot a couple of weeks ago. So just kind of neat to go through that, waiting on all the results to come back from that. But yeah, other than that, that's about it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Matheson, anything to report other than the fact you're extremely tired from pulling weeds for an entire day?
Yeah, not a lot to report. Had a great meeting with the seniors today. And yeah, thanks to the community. They showed up in force yesterday and got Margot's Garden in, and yeah, much appreciated everybody that showed up. So that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you. And Councillor Sim.
Thanks very much. And I'm dying to hear about politics and creativity. That sounds wow. And I think just a shout out for the May Day Parade that's happening this weekend. So again, the continuation of Clearwater always having something to do. Yeah, that's right. To follow up on Councillor Bratton as well as Councillor McKenzie's comments, just about the communication that's coming out of the district, which has really been very, very helpful. One of the things that I've noticed is that the recreation coordinator is able to use Instagram, which seems to have a different audience. And I'm wondering if the district would ever adopt to that to make sure that we're going wide with everything. Sometimes we talk about seniors who don't have access to the internet and why we use the newsletter, but also recognizing different pockets of our demographics that also use different mediums. I'm not suggesting TikTok yet, but but it is, I think, if we want to make sure that we are talking about, when we need water conservation or anything like that, that we do start using all tools in the toolbox. And our coordinator has done a terrific job about engaging that audience. And then I think we'd also lightly touched on how we communicate by even having an information corner, and if staff would consider having that looked at, where we've got those sandwich boards about different things that are happening, maybe alerts for, the water main flushing. And, nothing as high tech as a big neon sign, but something is just as informative as the good old fashioned sandwich, and having an information corner so people can refer to it. Just a thought there.
Yeah, I'll leave that with staff. I start to know, especially a lot of the local elected officials in the Okanagan are starting to use Instagram more often, and then also some of the towns. Councillor Bratton seemed to have a follow-up on something.
Yeah, sorry about that. I turned my page and forgot about the most important part of my speech. There was a concern down at Raft School for people not being aware or paying attention or speeding, and I just would like to bring mention to please pay attention to children on the streets, not just in the school zones, but in our subdivisions. Slow down, watch where you're going, and I am looking into, I contacted MOTT and ATS traffic. I have one more to contact, and I did contact the RCMP about getting an electronic speed sign, just if for the mortification factor. Oh shoot, I'm doing 50 in the 30 kind of thing. I'm not looking to penalize people, but I know that people would be totally devastated if there's anybody hurt. And passing buses when their sign is out, don't. You stop and wait. Children are crossing in front of that bus. So please pay attention. Just bring awareness. Thank you.
Thank you. You're not the only one. I did notice there was quite a discussion on one of the Facebook, I don't know about Instagram, but on one of the Facebook channels about that, among other local community issues. So yeah, I think it's important at this time. So thank you for that. Moving on to anything under CEO report. Good to go. I'm sure you're going to be doing lots of speaking here shortly on something. So up next is 16.1. Is from Director Carmichael, is on the Capital Roads program for 2026. So we'll just wait for that to get up and running, and there's a lot of information on this in your agenda packages. Follow along with the crowd.
All right. You hear me okay?
A little louder.
Louder or closer?
We could just say that all the time, but we're good.
Good afternoon. This is the Clearwater Road program. This program implements the first two phases of a long-term life cycle strategy focused on stabilization, optimization, and future utility corridor renewal. So this presentation outlines the challenges facing the district's road network and the long-term approach being proposed to manage them financially sustainable way. We will review the current condition of the network, the problem we are trying to overcome, and the overall program philosophy guiding this strategy. We'll discuss the methodology used to prioritize projects and how those projects align with a future 10-year plan. From there, we'll look at a deeper look into the phases of the program, including stabilization, optimization, and coordination with utilities, and the long-term final renewal section. Finally, we'll review the financial considerations, the proposed 6-year capital road program, and conclude with the recommended direction for council consideration. So this graph was from Tetra Tech in their report. So it was an annual capital budget of $750,000 was recommended to maintain the network average condition in terms of PCI for the next 20 years. So that was just to maintain how the roads are now. So we're currently below the threshold, which means gradual decline unless we adjust the strategy. And this presentation outlines how we manage the gap using this proposed program. So this bar graph is also out of the Tetra Tech report. So their modeling showed, so in the first bar there, for 2026, they have doing $300,000 road construction. And then the next bar, the red bar, shows if they added a microsurfacing treatment on top of the 300,000, just you would get twice as much work done, and so on up the graph. But in Clearwater, the economy of scale is where surfacing treatments pay off. So the modeling is strong at a network level, and it gives us a solid baseline. It shows microsurfacing can significantly increase coverage for the same cost. However, Clearwater has the constraint of scale. So if we complete small sections using microsurfacing, the cost goes up dramatically. But if microsurfacing works economically at about 50,000 square meters per program, which is about 6 or 7 kilometers of road way to be completed. So that means we cannot mix treatments as they're showing on the Tetra Tech example. This is just to give you a bit of an idea of, so this, the top slide shows microsurfacing. And this is the type of treatment, it's about 1 centimeter thick, and it's a emulsifier and very fine aggregate. And on the bottom, we show a chip seal, which is a much rougher surface that can be done on top of paved roads or on top of gravel roads. So the micropaving gives you a much nicer surface. It's still not it doesn't have the thickness of asphalt, and life expectancy isn't as long, but the cost difference, it's far cheaper. I've spoken with other municipalities that have been utilizing these treatments and have had success and are continuing to do more. In Vernon, I spoke to my counterpart, and they've been doing it for about 4 years and are continuing to do it every year. So this is the program philosophy. It's not just a list of projects, it's a strategy. So we're shifting from reactive work to structured asset management. The goal is to stretch dollars, reduce rework, and stabilize the network over time. And this is the baseline provided by Tetra Tech. And about 44% of the roads were in poor to very poor condition. Kind of looking at $100 a square meter to resurface the roads. You're looking at about $20 million. And if you add utilities into there, 40 million plus, easy to repair those roads. So that's not financially realistic in the short term. So prioritization is critical. This shows the current condition distribution across the network. So the deterioration is fairly widespread. It's not isolated in any one area of town. It's a bit of a peppered in everywhere. So I made an attempt to group some projects together. The projects are grouped by treatment type, utility condition, and location. This allows us to optimize delivery and pricing, applying the right treatment for the right area. And this map kind of shows how I've broken them out so far. So the red areas are grind and pave or overlay areas. The green shows rubbleize and pave, which we did on Candle Creek a couple years ago on half of it. Yeah, and then we have full or partial rebuild plus utilities in the blue areas. And the yellow area is just gravel road that could be gravel and pave. So the methodology, scoring logic, projects are ranked using structured scoring system. Factors include condition, safety, traffic, utilities, and operational burden. This ensures decisions are defensible and not subjective. It also aligns with long-term asset management principles. And so after applying those weighting mechanisms to the initial Tetra Tech scoring, go to the far right hand of the page and you got the priorities. So based on a road like, you see Myrtle is number 2. Myrtle and Candle Creek were just about tied for number 1, but Candle Creek has the added factor of safety, just with the steep slopes off the side of the road, and it is a kind of a major collector as well. Oh, and the blue highlight identifies projects that are strategically deferred from full reconstruction to avoid rework and inefficient use of capital. So these projects are prioritized for future utility investment and will be coordinated through the infrastructure sustainability plan that we've initiated this year. So this is kind of the forge ahead and rebuild roads twice, or strategically defer them and try to line them up with utilities. So some roads are intentionally deferred. Examples: Dutch Lake area, Strawberry Flats, Robson Myrtle, Clearwater Village, and Musgrave. And these are deferred due to underlying utility risks or incomplete scope. The goal is to avoid rebuilding the roads twice. So the program summary: life cycle optimization, keep the overall system stable within sustainable funding, right treatment at the right time, match investment condition to function, preservation first, asset management, extend life where possible, extend only or rebuild only when necessary, coordinate with utilities, align road network with underground infrastructure, use interim treatments to extend life, bridge gaps until long-term solutions are ready, and defer strategically, not reactively. So now we're now kind of taking a step back. So this phase 1, so this is kind of the plans for 2026. It's just to focus on stopping further network decline through targeted cost-effective treatments such as crack sealing, pothole patching, localized repairs. This not only protects the pavement structure, it prepares it for preventative treatments such as microsurfacing. There's just some people out crack sealing. So phase 2 is optimization, which shifts towards extending service life across the network through planned preservation treatments and selective rehabilitation. This includes chip sealing, double chip sealing, microsurface, cape seal, and localized repairs in high-risk areas. High volume, lower cost preservation treatments. So it's a shift from reactive to planned. Introduce treatments like the chip seal and microsurfacing. Goal is to extend life across the network efficiently. This is where we start gaining ground. So microsurfacing, key preservation tool, allows us to treat significantly more road per dollar. Requires scale, so it must be planned as a program, not isolated work. We're looking at about up to a tenth of the price of paving. I guess that might be a little bit wishful thinking, but that's what I was quoted from contractors, was in the $10 a square meter sort of range. Phase 3, coordination. So align roadway investments with water and sewer replacement programs to ensure infrastructure is renewed in a controlled and efficient manner. Avoid premature surface rebuilds. Completion of the infrastructure sustainability plan will transition the district into coordinated renewal planning. And it's just some pictures from my past life. This is a job I worked on in Athabasca where we redid all the sewer water, ripped up the road on their 2 blocks of Main Street downtown. There's a lot of happy people I got to talk to that summer. So this is where major savings occur, as coordinated projects reduce duplication, mobilization, and rework. So also improves overall infrastructure life cycle. Reserves planning is critical piece in the long-term capital integration. And then the 4th phase is a renewal cycle. You transition to a sustainable life cycle model. Sustainable reserve contributions, predictable life cycle renewal, smoothing capital costs, roads and utilities renewed together. So why interim treatments? They allow us to delay major capital until the funding is ready, and this is essential given current financial constraints. So this is, I don't know if it's readable up there, but so the red is 2027 project. So we'd be doing the micro paving on the red areas. The purple areas is kind of like the Greer subdivision, and Barber Road would be like a chip seal area in 2028. 2029 back to micro paving on all the orange areas. And then 2030 and 31, possible Candle Creek Road, like full reconstruction, and Musgrave would be our first water utility and road replacement. Potentially. We still haven't finished the sustainability plan, but and then this just lines up with that drawing. So you can see the 2026 work is the crack sealing and patching, as well as some work on Dunlake Road that it desperately needs some. 2027, the work is the micro paving, and then you can see, oh, let's go back. There we go. So I have a financial breakdown on there, which will match up with the resolution. It'll be a little easier to read on that.
And it's on page 82 of the agenda.
No, I know, it's so small, but get it bigger,
Oh.
also hard to read.
Would you like me to zoom in on this? Or the drawing?
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So the funding strategy is $550,000 annual investment, stabilization and optimization, and then utility funding gap identified through the sustainability plan that we're doing, and then we can match these two up and come up with an integrated 10-year plan for roads and utilities. And the deferrals will require further strategy and scope. So the key risks and considerations. Risks include funding gaps, utility timing, construction cost escalation, also risk of doing work twice if not coordinated. The phased approach is designed to actively manage these risks. So the recommended direction is to adopt the phase program approach and maintain a minimum 550,000 annual investment, align roads with utility planning, continue strategic deferrals where needed, use interim treatments to extend life, and return with a fully integrated 10-year capital plan. There we go. That's not the actual recommendation, but it's a little wordier than that.
Okay, see that concludes your presentation there. Are there any questions from council, or is there a second part? We got the recommendation in the agenda, but are there any questions of Mr. Carmichael on any of this? Go ahead, Councillor Sim.
In the recommendation, for the fourth one, that council approve a 2026 budget amendment to add a special project for $202,000 for additional gravel for Dunn Lake Road and crack sealing the remaining roads. What could people expect for additional gravel on Dunn Lake Road, given that we hear a great deal about it? So when I read that sentence, it sort of says we've got some gravel and the remaining roads, which seem to be extensive. So what would that expectation be?
So the plan is to redo that first kilometer of Dunn Lake Road that has been really bad the last 2 years. It's very washboarded. So that's about all you can get for $100,000. Is the second kilometer we spent some money on last year and is holding up pretty good.
Okay, so with that recommendation, what I'm hearing is that would be the funding would be used for 1 kilometer of gravel to kind of ease some of those real trouble spots.
Further questions or comments? Just a policy comment question. When we're applying for utility grants and explaining utility to the audience, where we're talking about here is not power lines necessarily or hydro. We're talking about our water and sewer lines that pass underneath the road. When we're applying for grants or planning those projects, are we incorporating in those grants and projects the full cost of the road repairs or complete rebuilds that need to happen? If we say we'll use Robson Street, for example, rip up Robson Street to replace both water and sewer lines when that happens, is that part of that grant?
Yeah, so that would be grant dependent. So the grants are there's varying different degrees of how much they will, like if it's if it's for making trails, like they'll pay a portion for a trail that goes down your road, or sometimes it might be just for utilities themselves. But I haven't seen a grant for a while that does a full rebuild, water, sewer, and road, but they are out there. They've done them.
But when we're doing that, if it's so say we are replacing the water, the sewer line. We'll just take the sewer line on Robson Street because we know that's one that's on our list somewhere. What level of repair would it just be? Where the cut is that we would incorporate into that grant application, or is that?
I see what you're asking, but everyone will be different. I would think if they include utilities and road, then we would ask for all of it, or 70-30 split, or.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Johnson?
In my background, typically when I've seen successful grants, you don't get covered off for some of the ancillary things like roads. If you're putting in for a utilities grant, typically it would be the utilities, it would be an allowance for utility cuts or whatever, but it's not the full cost of doing roads. So this grant this program is important that we have it in place. One of the features of it is, as council will recall, we still have a $300,000 contribution towards capital reserve, what was part of our regular budget process. So if we can, and that reserve is going to build through this process. So then as we apply for grants moving forward, it provides some matching funds to do some of the ancillary roadworks, for example, which could be required under a utilities type replacement grant.
Thank you. That kind of gets to where I was going with that. Further questions or comments? Councillor Sim?
On page 71 of the report, sort of halfway down, this plan intentionally concludes at the point where utility-driven road construction begins. So what would be an example of this? Would that be Robson and Myrtle?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is the first section, and then we're doing the sustainability plan for utilities with True this year. They've started it, so we're going to combine these plans at the end, and that's when we'll start planning when the.
Okay, and I think that that's just an important point, because you can imagine where people, they see all this great work being done, but maybe it doesn't get to their stretch of the road, but it is intentional because of this, and then how we articulate that out. Like, we just don't want to spend money and then re-spend money.
Yeah, we don't want to pave it and then 2 years later go, okay, this is the time to do the program for the sewer line underneath it and rip up what we just paid. That's the worst way of doing things.
So we face two questions. Why aren't they doing mine? And why did they spend that money just to rip it up? So not sure there's a winning answer here.
Yeah.
And then just to cover off on what you're saying there, you were talking about the combination of those two plans. I'm wondering if that ties into the next paragraph. So there is significant work required to review and refine existing studies, including and all the management plans. How is this going to be done? Are you saying that True is going to embark on that and they are going to be the ones who are compiling these reports, or is staff going to be looking after this?
I believe staff will be merging the two plans together. Yeah.
Okay, and is there an anticipated deadline? Because that seems like an awful lot of work, but really important work.
Yeah. So it's not totally fleshed out yet, but.
Do you see it as a 1-year project or a 2-year project, or you haven't opened? Like that, it's too big to even contemplate first. I don't know, Mr. Johnson.
Go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it is a big project.
Yeah.
And there's been 3 different areas identified in this report where we need to take that bigger look. And then the other lens we need to bring it is what's the financing side of it? And that's where we've been talking about, do we use debt to fund this, and so that we can put a time when we can actually get it done, right? And I think that answer has to include that debt solution. As far as the timing of bringing that forward, not exactly sure. We would have to do some thinking on what that is. I'm hoping we can do that within the next year. I don't think it's a 2-year project. I think within the next year we bring this forward, bring the debt position forward on it and recommendations for council, and that flows with the financial guidelines report as well that the Director of Finance is working on. So
Yeah, and the reason I ask is because it just seems like such an integral point where we can actually now start looking 5 years out. So we actually have project planning as a result of what you're suggesting in this report.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Councillor Bratton, and then Councillor McKenzie. Sorry, just sorry I lost.
I just would like you to highlight, Mayor Blackwell, or whoever else, why the little piece of road that is in front of Burrows and goes to the Eco Depot is not included in this system. Reiterate a point.
Yeah, so that road, it does come up a lot. At times we've had multi-jurisdictional agreements on maintaining that road. I have had some discussion with the TNRD management over time as to whether or not we kind of pool in there to get that paved or constructed. But that Road 2 and Road 2A are both Forest Service roads. Ministry of Forest does not pave Forest Service roads, so that is why that is done. The minute we decide that we would like to make improvements to that road, and it's not out of the question, because, you know, there is the feeling, especially with the TNRD, because they do get a lot of complaints about people wishing to drive to the Eco Depot on pavement or some other better surface, to just go ahead and do that. But once you do that work, it is your responsibility from that time on to maintain that. So that's why that has not been done. The discussions are ongoing on that one, though, because we do realize that it is a big thorn under the side of residents on that one. Fully also noting that if it was to be done, it would probably just be to the intersection by the Eco Depot, and it would not continue down to the entrance at Road 2A, because then you are definitely, you pave that intersection and you do that, it's a sections that's gravel and needs to be graded, butting up against a section that is asphalt, the likelihood of doing damage and having to repair that every single time is very, very high. So, but that'll be an ongoing thing, discussion with Director Zhao and others within the TNRD. Okay, Councilor McKenzie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. Not so much a question, just an observation for the public that's here, anyone online or that's read the agenda. With Tetra Tech's report of 44% of our roads being listed as poor to very poor, just want to confirm that under further inspection from our manager and I can't remember who else went out with them, but that was not the case once visually inspected, going off that Van's report.
As far as, you think it was better condition or worse?
No, just from what I've read, Tetra Tech's report said 44% of very poor roads. So if I wasn't here all the time attending these and whatnot, and to read that report, I think just how bad it was for town, right? From the general public.
Gotcha.
When in fact, you actually went out physically and inspected these roads, and they were not as bad as what the test ban had said. There's just what I'm trying to clarify.
Gotcha. So I would say the road's base in Clearwater is in very good condition. Like, we don't have a lot of alligator roads or roads that are like breaking apart. But there's a lot that have block cracking, like so that every 5 meters or so you'll get a crack, and then you'll get the vertical cracks that go against it.
That's right.
And so those are in poor condition, and it doesn't take very long to get to very poor condition. That's all.
Okay.
But they're drivable. I think most of the roads are very drivable. There's a handful that are very potholy.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Johnson, do you want to comment?
I think the director covered that off. The Tetra Tech report looks at the surface of the roads, so it makes assumptions about the base. So our own teams have been going out there and doing some of the base work, particularly on the old North Thompson, where they did actually a drilling program to try to figure out what does that base actually look like to further inform the Tetra Tech report. But I think the Tetra Tech report's probably not bad from the perspective of the surface, 44% of the surface of our roads look poor to very poor, right? So then it takes judgment from the Director of Public Works around, okay, what are those, really what's the right solution for those roads? And we were just having a discussion the other day, and we have some roads in Clearwater that maybe none of these kind of surface solutions are actually going to work for it because the roads really are too poor to do that. So this will continue to be refined as we move forward with it.
Thank you. And note that in this year's budget, we did increase the contributions to the Roads Capital Reserve, specifically because we could see this coming, and we will, as a community, will have to continue to increase contributions to the Roads Capital Reserve to pay for improvements to the road years moving forward. I like to thank staff on this and our consultants and Tetra Tech, because now we actually know what we're dealing with. We have that full picture. Adding the utilities, our water and sewer lines, to the plan underneath it will give us even a more broad plan. It's a lot of ways more detailed. plan of what we have to hit when. And this is what we really sort of have been lacking, is sort of that detailed assessment and combined with sort of a strategy that allows us to move forward on fixing the roads, but also allows us to understand what we're going to need to do to finance the fixing of roads throughout our community. We've kind of just hit it, as Director of Operations has said, in a reactionary matter where a section fails and we just go out and spend the money to repair it this time. This basically allows us to manage that much better and do a lower level fix to hold things off while we deal with the larger problems in the long run. And I hope to see in a couple of years this gives us a overall better driving experience on our roads, but also gives us the ability to plan for a better long-term permanent repairs of those roads that are in the extremely poor categories and that sort of thing. Further comments or questions? If not, I've got two recommendations here. What's the desire of council?
Just one question before we do that. I'm just wondering, based on what we've heard about the kilometer, is that important to be noted in the motion from a staff perspective?
Thank you. No, I don't think the kilometer is important. That is the intent. We'll see how we have I believe Chad's allocating $100,000 towards that. We'll see how far that goes. As we get down there, the intent is a full kilometer of that road. Well, I don't think we need to add it. I think you leave the flexibility.
Maybe not the kilometer. Is it important to specify, because we've got the money for the other section, but not this particular one? Should it be consistent, or you think it's fine? And I only cite that because people are eagerly watching for what is going to happen to Dunn Lake, and without being clearly articulate, even from the beginning of the motion, is how that manifests over the summer. Mayor Blackwell, you've got a thought, maybe?
I'm going to look over there, but I'm going to go with Mr. Carmichael will comment on that. But I'm assuming we're going a kilometer, and if we can do more, we're going to do a little bit more.
Right, so I've estimated $100,000 for Dunn Lake, so we could just break it out that way. If that $100,000 towards Dunn Lake and the remainder towards the crack ceiling.
Okay. Yep. Councillor Frizzle.
Could you just not say a portion of Dunn Lake Road, and then you're not stuck to a certain kilometer, or a little more or a little less?
So, yeah, I we've allocated funds. I think between the staff, the management team, the best bang for the buck once they get in there and find out what's going on. Because sometimes when you lift things up, you don't know exactly what you're getting into. So. But that the intention here is essentially to do our best on work that's previously been done, a large portion of Dunn Lake Road, which is great news. Okay. Further comments or questions? I mean, we can try to paint everything into a corner here or specify all we want, but we may not be able to deliver that on that the more specific we get.
And I think that's fair, but at least understanding, because the way it could be read is that a portion of that is allocated for Dunn Lake, and then the rest goes to the crack ceiling, as opposed to up to $200,000 for Dunn Lake Road, and the any residual goes back for crack ceiling. Where do we compromise versus ensuring it? Because I don't want to pigeonhole, because if you get there and go, this is going to cost $150,000. Exactly. Okay, but you've got up to the 200 with the remainder. It's just trying to level set a community expectation on something that we hear about all the time.
Any further comments or questions? Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Councillor Frizzle.
That, the last part there where it says $202 and $111 for additional gravel for Dunn Lake Road is like, are we talking $404,000? Because that's what it looks like right now. Well, if you're talking, to amend the budget to allocate $202 for the capital road reserve, and the next line, you're saying that same number again. It could seem like that is what it's.
So if I could just direct you to page 82. Those are where the numbers are coming from.
Yep.
Okay, so when we were funding these projects, we determined that there was a capital project and a regular maintenance project or a special project. Okay, and the reason that we differentiate between the two is so that we can use funding from reserves that require you to do a capital project. So the first area where it says capital project, and that is the crack sealing, micro paving, and chip sealing. That's the $1.4 million for 3 years. And that allows us to use the gas tax reserve or the community works reserve and the growing community fund to fund those projects. So they're capital. They're going from doing the crack sealing into the micro paving, which extends the life of that road 7 years or 8 years. So that's the capital project. Now we're talking about what council was talking about earlier is a special projects. So those are various different crack sealing roads that are not those roads that are going to get micro paved or chip sealed, and $100,000 allocated to Dunn Lake Road. So so what we're doing with the special maintenance is we're saying, okay, we had allocated all $400,000 into the capital fund. We're requesting to put it into the capital operating reserve. And then what we're going to do is fund this special operating through the operating reserve. So I'm just reallocating some of that $435,000 of the budget that we put into capital. Maybe we should have put a little bit into operating, and now that we have a more detailed plan. So that second paragraph was allocating it from capital reserve to operating reserve. And then the third paragraph is saying, this is what we're doing with that money.
Okay.
So that's really helpful. That was the slide I was trying to get bigger on by going online. So your explanation makes a lot of sense. It clearly articulates how it's going to be done. So thank you. That's
that
great
makes much more
clarification.
sense. Thank you.
Okay. Love the plan. Love the idea that we have a multi-year structured plan. So that's basically recommendation 1. Does somebody want to move recommendation 1? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconded by Councillor Fizzle. Further discussion on that one? If not, all those in favor? Okay, so then there's recommendation 2, which is the more detailed what's happening with this. Does anybody want to move recommendation 2? Moved by Councillor McKenzie, seconder. Councillor Matheson seconds that. Discussion on this one, and this is where what we've just been talking about here is what's the best deal for this, and then understanding that what we're doing this year leads into next year and leads into next year and leads into next year. So it's this is not all necessarily we do this section and then we move on to a completely different section. We do this repair this year, which may lead to an overlay repair the next year, and then overlay repair on that to improve conditions overall over time as we move along. It's like renovating your house. If you ripped it all apart at once, you couldn't live in it, but if you do sections at a time and then improve even on those sections, you can get a hell of a lot more done living within your means and still keeping operational, which I think is a great plan. So moved in second on recommendation 2 for the discussion. If not, all those in favor, and that passes. Thank you for your work on this, and I look forward to how this rolls out in real life and real time. We do have the on table item of 16.2 Fire Department Master Plan. This is a request for funding.
Oh, no, let's do it.
So, Mr. Smith, I think Fire Chief Smith is going to speak to this.
Yep, thank you, Mayor Blackwell. So the project was approved through the budget. Based on the proposal we received, the project was expected to exceed the original approved budget of $60,000. Following review of the submitted proposals by staff, we identified the preferred proponent. It exceeds the original value, but it provides strong overall value to the municipality. The proposal is from a firm with a stronger local BC presence and includes more in-person engagement throughout the project, which also includes delivery of the final plan in person to council. Staff believed that approach is very beneficial. So we're requesting a budget amendment of up to $20,000 to allow the project to proceed with the preferred proposal and to provide room for contingency. Like I said, our evaluation, we all agreed the in-person availability was very beneficial. And that's kind of...
So basically, to have it,
And so one more thing is, the master plan also is helping to identify the infrastructure needs of the fire department, so i.e. the fire hall. And that was one of the bigger things that this proposal that we want to select. They're engaging a architect firm to help identify that, to bring a Class D estimate for grant readiness. Okay. So that we believed that that was more beneficial to select that proponent. So it's a little bit more money, but we think the value is there to get that right. So
and after what the presentation we had last meeting from TNRD on the joint fire and SAR, I mean, I think that's a really important thing to have a look at right now for long-term planning or for moderate, medium-term planning on that. Definitely. So this bumping this and having this done by a more local company allows for more citizen engagement on the ground. Is that what I'm getting? We're gonna have more.
They
whereas some of the other ones were.
The other one was they're BC-ish. They're more from back east.
Okay.
Their in-person engagement kind of was like one meeting, or we had to pay for additional. So this one, they're already proposing more engagement in person in community. So
yeah, and I think that's important for our citizens. They really like, not all of them take advantage of it, but they really like the opportunity or multiple opportunities to engage in person, and I think that's important when we're doing.
And then I also reached out to a couple of the examples or the references, and they two of them gave
good recommendations,
very good reviews of them and how engaged they were with staff, council, community throughout the whole process.
Yeah, and that creates a lot of citizen buy-in on something that we need to,
very, very beneficial.
Yeah. Okay, good. Any further questions, Councillor Sim?
No, that's such helpful information, especially just even in architecture. That just changes everything when people are now talking about something they can see. So with that, I'd be happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sim. Seconded by Councillor Frizzle. Further discussion? I know it's short time, but good work on this. All those in favor? Thank you. And then we move on to item 16.1. Bylaws. Bylaw number 335, annual tax rate bylaw for adoption. Oh, sorry, what? 17.1, yes, sorry, yeah. Discussions, comments from staff? No, seeing none. This is adoption. So do I have a mover and a seconder on this? Moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Frizzle. District of Clearwater Annual Tax Rates Bylaw number 335, 2026. A bylaw to establish the 2026 annual tax rates. Whereas pursuant to section 165 of the Community Charter, Council has prepared a 5-year financial plan for the period of January 1st, 2026 to December 31st, 2030. And whereas the 5-year financial plan as presented has been considered and approved by Council, and whereas it is necessary under section 197 of the Community Charter to establish tax rates to raise the revenue for municipal purposes identified in the year 2026 of the 5-year financial plan, and whereas to meet its taxing obligation in relation to other local governments or public bodies, certain amounts are to be collected for the year 2026 by means of rates established by the District of Clearwater, Now therefore, the Council of the District of Clearwater, an open meeting assembles and acts as follows. This bylaw may be cited as the District of Clearwater 2026 Annual Tax Rates Bylaw number 335/2026. All those in favor? And that passes. Thank you. There is nothing under 18 or 19. Then we move on to the two notices of motion from Councillor Sim to be voted on and spoke to at this time, if you so wish. Councillor Sim.
So thanks. I wasn't actually expecting them to come forward based on our last meeting, but surprise, surprise, here we are. So I listened to some of the comments from around the table, and the intention of the trails is really just to find a way for the community to move forward, to just, as I've said in the past, to bring some of our assets to life. When you go up to Candle Creek and all the fun trail names, it really just has a different invigoration. So I spoke to Councillor Frizzle yesterday, and she had some thoughts, and I'm going to pass it over to her to maybe correct the errors of my way.
Well, no errors, just going to shrink it.
Thank you.
I like the idea of the whole concept of the wayfinding. But so I went and looked at the Trails Master Plan and had a look at the trail design and use management. And basically I looked at, there's a list of different things that you can do, but I looked at two. And it's developed the wayfinding signage program that helps users find components of the trail network and use it with confidence, which I think is very important. And consider prioritizing and developing trail staging areas in the 3 town centers with the design features that create a special pace for the community. And that can mean anything, just seating areas, for kids to play, interpretive signage, community gardens, whatever, public art, picnic tables so people go have a picnic. I think start small and we can expand further from that, and just put it out to staff to maybe put out a survey see what people think and what they would like to name these other trails, because they are their trails. So that's my thoughts on it.
Stay away from Trutch. Further comments, Councillor Sim?
No, and I appreciated your conversation, because that's exactly it. I mean, really, the motion is to request that staff move forward on the Trails Master Plan. I believe it's
4.5, 1, and 4.
So it's 2 points.
Okay.
And if you think about it, just to that, like just even how we move forward, there was just to have some fun with it, but iconic Canadian rock band or rock music that could be associated. Life is a highway trail. Right?
As long as it's not Plowy McTrailface. Anyways, Mr. Johnson, like to add comment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I actually really like this notice of motion. I like it almost in its full. I like it almost in its full entirety.
Wow.
I think it's a great project definition for next steps in our trail network. However,
oh no, there's a however.
There we are.
I think it represents a major initiative. I think that for it to be done and done well and engage the community and engage local businesses, this is a multi-year initiative. And I think that multi-year initiative could pay off big time. I think the concept is great and it's very broad span to it, but I think it's going to need dedicated staff or consulting resources, a budget for planning it, and an implementation budget. So what my recommendation would be that the other point is we're in the waning days of this council. It doesn't mean we can't take on new projects. It doesn't mean if there's new stuff we can't consider it. But this has a bit of a time frame around it, and if the next council does not support it, the project will die, I think, before any meaningful work can get done. So I think what I would recommend would be to refer this motion to a future strategic planning session for the next council. And again, it's not in any way pejorative to the motion. I think you've covered a lot of bases with this, what could really add to the community vibe and could really not just add to the vibe, but make those trails much more user friendly. So not just exciting, but more user-friendly too for the average person. So that would be my recommendation on it. Again, and I hate to sound like a broken record, it's staff time. We're at a real crunch, and frankly, we've just gone through the budget process, and so unless council wants to free up budget for consulting assistance or something. Thank you.
Can I just say,
Yeah.
I just want to say I find it funny that I try to shrink it and you just made it big. Really big. That fair.
So
I just found it
Were
funny.
you trying to propose an amendment to the motion?
Yeah, not this whole motion, because I was just trying to make it more concise. Like, we want the trails named. And that's basically,
So,
Even just, can we ask for one?
yeah, I mean, you could ask for one and make a motion for one. You could amend this motion down to something much more simpler than 1, 2, 3, 4 whereases and a wherefore.
I worked with
therefore,
Lynn to
and
get it down to 2. Now I'm asking at 1. I think this is almost
Well, I
like a
mean-
miracle.
It's what's due. I mean, the meeting to me seems like a relatively public meeting. Sounds like a relatively doable thing, in itself. I mean, and go from there. I mean, but it's up to you. This is your motion.
It is, and I agree. And I hear all of the rationale from staff, and I think it makes sense, and I appreciate your oversight. I guess where my heart breaks a little bit is that there's still life left in this council. Like, we're not dead yet. And it is something that was worked on really hard, by community. It's an incredible investment. And, maybe it's not going to be a priority of the next council. But we are still left with basically a network that nobody understands and it's not even useful. And to even make a small step towards it, can we do that? And it isn't about legacy. It's about starting something, using something that is existing. Like, follow the path is what we're left with. And this was really just to provide some definition for our community and for our visitors.
so we want to say follow the named path.
Follow the named path.
Yes.
I don't know, council. It wasn't supposed to be here till the 26th. I don't want to create work.
We could table it for another meeting, and then give
I wouldn't
more
mind
time.
tabling it, and if council could have some thoughts on it, because it is not to make work. It's not, and it's not to fulfill this great vision that I love, that you've endorsed. Thank you, and I'm glad it's being recorded. But it is to somehow just have a small step. I mean, maybe even I come back with a motion to speak to highways about polishing up the god-awful bricks in the roundabout so they don't look so shabby. I would even accept that as a compromise, but something to invigorate our corridors.
How about we table both of these motions till the next meeting?
No, we
come
can
back
talk a
as-
little bit about the whimsy one for just
You
briefly.
talk about the whimsy one, but okay, we'll work on this one. How about we
So
table?
I moved to table the motion till the 26th.
So we're tabling that. We don't actually have to move that, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
It just gets tabled,
Thanks.
comes back in business, and then that gives more time to think, refine, suggest.
And what I'm asking for is the reflection of council, right? That's all I'm asking for.
Okay,
Thank
that
you.
works for everybody. Good. Okay, move on to whimsy.
yeah, so
you're
at the-
gonna have to explain this one to me. I'm starting to get it, but go ahead.
Are you? Like
Then Revelstoke, and you cited Revelstoke as a community that this has been done, and my brain went back to some of the things I saw there. So.
yeah, and so just to really talk about, and again, it goes back to some of our trails, is though if you look at the, I'm going to call it hospital trail, and you walk along the rim, and what you found is you stumbled and somebody had painted rocks or they had hung hearts in the trees. Those are examples of whimsy, just things that you stop and it catches your eyes and it becomes sort of a self discovery of, oh, look at that, and it's fun. Even when you walk the trail out and you find the wind phone. That is another example of whimsy. So it's just small elements that invigorate a walking experience. and it's artistic in nature. CAO Johnson had the idea, you know, could this be run by the Arts Public Arts Committee? They took it. Councillor Frizzle, you were there. You heard what they had to say, so I'm going to turn it over to you again.
They embraced it. They really did. They thought it was a great idea. They came up with lists of things that they thought they could really do, like chalk painting on different things for different events, like the Children's Festival, you know, so that things are not permanently there, but they're there for a while just to.
Yeah, so in summary, thanks to you, CAO Johnson, it has gone somewhere. So I'm not sure we necessarily need it as a motion. I think it's going to come up and could be woven into other events that are actually happening, and then to be endorsed. The only reason to possibly bring it back to this table is just to ensure that we don't have a whole bunch of you know, statues and crazy things that are all of a sudden adorned on public assets. So it was out of respect, but I think we do have an avenue. They really were quite excited at the committee about how that could be tied into the Children's Art Festival. So there's lots of really easy ways. And again, it's all just about invigorating the assets that we have that make it interesting.
They were talking about making fairy houses outside of one business, you know, just doing different things through
I
the
think
children.
I think you bring it to an excellent point there. Is what happens on business property as part of this, I think, is one aspect to it. Not everybody's a Banksy, so you know, guerrilla art on public property is a whole other thing. But to the non-permanence of it is a whole other aspect. And I do tend to see this around town. Christmas decorations hang on certain paths that we walk in the winter time.
Yes, whimsy.
Yeah, so okay, this is whatever. So not wanting to stifle anybody's artistic brilliance, but you know, to me, leaving a dead car on my lawn and letting flowers grow out of it or a tree through it is kind of art, but it's a whimsical art. That's kind of my whimsy, but I don't think that would be appreciated by the entire thing. So yes, if you've got some work done on this with your with the arts group, then that's wonderful. And then I don't even know what our role in this is, other than to
It's nothing.
maybe say,
It would probably be nothing at the moment until the Arts Committee wanted to do anything
Some of these
with
things,
it.
it's more, that's great, it's there, it's temporary. Asking for permission versus, you know, or asking for forgiveness versus permission is probably a better policy on this one.
I did not say that.
I did, because I wasn't at the meeting, but you know, it's
Anyway, thank you very much for the consideration of it. I think it's just looking at creative ways to brighten and embolden our community.
Yeah.
That's
thank
it.
you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any? Oh, Annabelle is still here. Are there any questions from the public?
Okay, Dutch Lake Road is, we pay taxes along there. I'd like to see, if not all Dutch Lake Road down here be paved. The potholes at the end are terrible. Like seriously, if anybody walks down there in the dark, they could trip and hurt themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
I won't be one of them, but.
That has been brought to staff's attention, and potholes for the most part are regular maintenance. So I'm sure Mr. Carmichael or Mr. Johnson will let us know when sort of that regular annual maintenance on things like that will be taken care of. Anything else, Annabelle?
Nope.
Okay. We've already done our in-camera motion to adjourn. Bratton, Matheson, all those in favor, and that passes. Thank you.